Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's the end of 2022. It's been a good year. Overall, I mean ups and downs, but overall a good year. Hopefully you guys feel the same way. And we're heading into 2023. I usually do a wrap up of all the things that have happened this year, but decided not to do that this year. Really what I want to focus on, portraits and portrait tips. I am going to go through almost every month a portrait that I did, but I really want to share with you guys some important tips. I'm going to go through 18 photos. I'm going to rapid fire these because I've made this video already like 5 times and it's just way too long. So I'm gonna go through just important tips that I see in each photo. And this is really geared for those that wanna shoot outside, right? If you're a studio photographer, this is not the game. I like to shoot outdoors, mostly with natural light. Background for me is just as important, if not more, than the model herself. Something to think about, especially if you're still trying to figure out where your style is. We shot with Vanessa. Really the key thing here is make sure your model, especially if you're shooting for sunset, is facing at the light source if possible. So I always have models kind of face towards where that last bit of light is coming to make sure they're as best lit as possible. February with Natalia, really, if you're gonna shoot like this with the sun's behind you, you need an external light source. I use a ring light, as many of you guys are aware. So important to make sure your model is well lit. If there's not enough light, it'll be too dark, photos will be blurry and will lack detail. All right, March 2022 with Young. I am always very careful when I shoot in broad daylight of sunspots. In this case, it works really well. Her face is well lit. There's some shadows towards the edges of her face, which is fine. But if you're shooting somewhere where there's trees and you're seeing faces like sun, shade, sun, looks really, your photos are ruined ultimately. So whenever you shoot in bright daylight, make sure you find a nice shady spot. Make sure you avoid any sunspots on people's faces. All right, March 2022 with Alice. I will say here, when you shoot at the beach, I really try and focus on making sure that 2 things happen here. She has really awesome colored eyes, so I make sure those pop. You don't wanna bring them too much, like the exposure, because then they look like ghosts, but you wanna make sure they're sharp. And the second thing is you can play with the luminance tool. You bring down the blue, right? So I wanna make the blue pop in this photo. So I use the luminance tool to bring that down a little bit and make sure that that ocean blue behind her just looks really, really nice. With Danny, take advantage. Anytime you're shooting anywhere where you have tall grass, for example, or anything you can bring blurry into the foreground, I like to do it. So in this case, we shot out big field. You can see some of that blurry foreground. The reason I like this portrait a lot is we have a very clear foreground, midground, and background. Key thing for landscape photography, but for portraits actually works out pretty well. Added back a little bit of that blue. Again, when you're editing, tweak things. Don't go crazy with sliders, tweak things, see how they look. With Lauren here, again, a lot of green behind her, but what I wanna focus on here is outfit. I actually didn't talk to Lauren as much as I normally do with some of the models that I shoot. She did a fantastic job. Love the earrings, the dress, the jean jacket. The jean jacket and the pose makes this picture good. Make sure the tip here when you're communicating with your models, never force them to wear anything, right? I always tell people, wear whatever you'd wanna be photographed in. Here's where we're going, where my idea is, and here's my style of what I'm looking to do. For the most part, I always tell women, look, we're shooting with a lot of green or we're shooting with a lot of trees, a field, whatever it is. Here's kind of my vision. Feel free to bring anything that you think aligns with that. And normally, a lot of the models are usually like, absolutely, they bring multiple outfits, which is even better because you get more variety in one shoot. All right, Nikki and Tara, 2 portraits here. So I usually use a diffuser. So here's the tip for you guys. If there's an additional person, if it's not just you and the model, and you're shooting in broad daylight, this is a really bright day. Normally you use a light diffuser, hold it up to diffuse that light, get really soft lighting. I didn't have that, I lost it, long story. But in this case, I actually had Tara in the back with a big blanket to create that shadow that I needed for Nikki, and vice versa. I also had an external light source on the front to make sure that the model is well lit. Lots going on, but if you have that third person, take advantage of it. You can shoot midday with a third person. Somebody's holding up a diffuser, creating a little bit of shadow, whatever it is. All right, shoot with Janet here in August, and my kryptonite is shooting at a gloomy beach location. I cannot, the yellows are quite not right. The blues are a little too blue. I don't know what it is, but I struggle so much with getting the right tone when I'm shooting at the beach and it's extremely, extremely cloudy. My suggestion to you, if you're not already, you should be shooting raw. You can mess with the white. There are numerous different ways. The HSL, the calibration, the actual color grading circles here. There's a lot of different ways that you can impact the color of a photo, but shooting in raw allows you to really mess with the white balance, which is what you want, especially when you're, there's situations where something's too blue or the sunset can even be too yellow, and I'll get to that in a second. And then we have a situation where I got really lucky, but again, the opposite here. So really, really yellow and having a really orangey looking tone to someone's face, not so cute. Golden hour, fantastic, but a lot of times when I shoot for sunset and we're just getting that soft golden glow, I do want to bring down that orange and yellow saturation slider just a little bit down, right? You don't want to overdo it. But when people are too orange, it looks a little bit weird. And bringing it down just -5, -10, take a look at that. You're gonna notice it still looks like sunset and golden hour, but it just looks so much better. And then again in October with Nikki and Tara, and big thing here is your location. As a portrait photographer, I remember I used to take my camera everywhere. I try and take photos, and then I'd be like, well, this doesn't really go with my style. Now I'm very specific about where I take my camera and intent to take photos, whether it's landscape or portraits. Really what I like about these photos, aside from the great job that Nikki and Tara did, is the background. Like, look at this, right? I love the road. I love some of the light peeking through the trees on the road like this. Your eye follows the road straight up. It's too windy, always ask your model to bring a hat, bring a stylish hat. It is really difficult to clean up loose hairs. Really, really difficult. So if there's any doubt, have the model put on some sort of stylish hat, like the one I showed earlier with Danny. The tip here with Maddie in October is to really hone in on your location. So here, this is a place that I shot at before. It was a little bit more dry than usual. Saw this wooden fence and I said, hey, let's play around with it. I shot it at an angle. I shot it at the front like this. And I will tell you guys, as you guys shoot portraits, if a model has something to interact with, your photo is gonna look so much better. A big tip if you're looking to get into portraits, try playing around with some props or at your location, see what you can use to have your model interact with. Here we have Myrna in November. And honestly guys, here what I do is on my phone, I have obviously a lot of portraits that I look at, and I try to save poses because a lot of times when you're on location, it's hard to figure out, do I do it this way? Do I do it that way? I usually just pull my phone and go, here you go, take a look at this. And we usually review it together. And a lot of times like, oh, I like this, let me try that. You'll just find that even someone who's never shot before, you can get some really nice photos with some simple poses. And I'm sure you can YouTube, I'm sure there are people who make videos just on that. Love this photo, love the detail of the photo, which is really important. Made the face a little bit brighter. Editing in Lightroom, I messed up, but I would have removed this. I would have had Kayla remove it during the actual photo. And really what I like about this photo is that you can see she's smiling without actually seeing her smile. You can see it in the eyes. And that's something as a photographer, if you want to play around with, right? It's really awesome. There's a saying, you smile with your eyes, right? But being able to show that in a photo here, right? You get the sense of like it's cold, but we're kind of in this cozy sweater. You see some of the snow on it. A lot of things about this photo work, but what I like the most is you can still see emotion without even seeing half her face. To finish this off with Alyssa, first time I met her. We've been Instagram friends for years, and visited Denver, she lives there, reached out. Hey, yeah, let's grab some coffee, find a little spot and take some portraits. We're in the city, so outside of the norm, not places I normally shoot portraits at, but we walked around, found this cute little neighborhood, found this awesome red tree. You never want to be too close to the tree because then it's not out of focus, right? Remember, your depth of field. So I had her take a few steps forward, make sure we still get that beautiful red color, but it is out of focus in the back. I knew this was gonna go on longer than I wanted to, but I hope you guys learned a little something, me going through some cool portraits that I shot in 2022. I'll leave it there. Stay tuned for some awesome content coming your way in 2023. I'll see you next year.